You know her as the Bible-thumping, casserole-baking, Shelley put your hands together and pray, mum from The Big Bang Theory. The woman who calls California Gomorrah and tries to convert Penny in a church parking lot. But here's what the show never told you. Before Mary Cooper found Jesus, she was a chain-smoking, hard-drinking teenager who got pregnant in a Texas bar at 18 and married a man she barely knew. This isn't a side character. Mary Cooper has the most quietly tragic story arc in the entire Big Bang Theory universe. A wild child who became a saint, then a widow who became a villain. And it took 2 TV shows, 17 years, and a real-life mother and daughter playing her to tell the full story. So let's break it down. The entire life of Mary Cooper. Mary Tucker was born January 13th, 1956, in East Texas. Daughter of Constance, the woman Sheldon and Missy would later call Meemaw, and a man called Pop Pop, who died before the timeline of either show. Now, if you've only seen The Big Bang Theory, you'd assume Mary grew up in a pew with a Bible in her lap. You'd be wrong. According to canon, and confirmed across both shows, young Mary was, in her own family's words, a smoking, drinking, promiscuous, wild child. She partied. She got into trouble. She was, frankly, her mother Meemaw's daughter through and through, which is why Meemaw spends all of young Sheldon side-eyeing Mary's holy roller act. Meemaw knows what Mary used to be. And then, in 1974, everything changed in one night. Mary was 18. She walked into a bar in Texas. There was a soldier home from the army, a guy named George Cooper. They started talking, they kept drinking, and they went home together. She got pregnant that night. That baby was Georgie Jr. And just like that, the wild child got a shotgun marriage, a husband, and a whole new life she hadn't planned on. Which, if you're paying attention, is the exact same situation her own son Georgie would end up in 30 years later with Mandy. History repeats itself in the Cooper family. Loudly. So how does an East Texas party girl turn into the most devout woman in Medford? It's a slow burn. The pregnancy was the first crack. But the moment that truly broke Mary open, the moment she became a born-again Christian, was the birth of her second child. A little boy named Sheldon Lee Cooper, and his twin sister Missy. Sheldon was a genius before he could tie his shoes. He didn't behave like other children. He didn't think like other children. He corrected his Sunday school teachers about the age of the earth. He treated other kids like lab specimens. And George Sr., football coach, beer drinker, your classic Texas dad, had no idea what to do with him. But Mary did. Mary read his books. Mary fought his teachers. Mary drove him to college lectures when he was 9 years old. She is, by far, the only person in the universe who can control Sheldon Cooper. Leonard, decades later, literally calls her Sheldon's kryptonite. And this is where the religion came in. Mary was raising what felt like an alien child in a town full of football and Friday night fish fries. She turned to God because she literally did not know who else could explain her son to her. She prayed for him, she prayed about him, and she fell in deep. But here's the thing about Mary's faith, and this is important. It never made her stop loving Sheldon. Even when he stood up in church and tried to prove to Pastor Jeff that God didn't exist using math. Even when he told her science was facts and religion was nonsense. She just kept singing. Quick rehook. Because if you've watched a single episode of either show, you know what's coming. Soft kitty, warm kitty, little ball of fur. That song, it's Mary's. She made it up, or her version of it, to soothe baby Sheldon when he was sick. And Sheldon, who became a grown man, a doctor, a Nobel laureate. Sheldon still needs that song. He needs his mum to sing it when he has a fever. He needs Penny to sing it when his mum isn't there. He sings it to his niece. He sings it to Amy. Soft Kitty is the umbilical cord between Sheldon Cooper and Mary Cooper. It is the single most enduring symbol of motherly love in the entire show. And it came from a woman who, 30 years earlier, was getting drunk in a Texas bar. That's the gift of Mary Cooper. She poured everything she used to be, all that chaos, all that recklessness, into becoming the safest place her strange little boy could land. But here's where young Sheldon does something brutal. It shows you the cracks. Mary's marriage to George Sr. was never stable. Remember, they started because of an accidental pregnancy, not love. And by the time young Sheldon picks up, they're a couple held together by routine, 3 kids, and a faded sense of duty. George drinks. George is overlooked. George feels like the dumb one in his own house because his son is smarter than every adult he knows. And Mary is at church. Always at church. With Pastor Jeff, working for the congregation, pouring her emotional life into a man in a suit instead of the man she married. In season 5, the church brings in a younger pastor, Pastor Rob, and Mary starts spending way too much time with him. George notices. George gets jealous. George starts spending time with a woman named Brenda, his neighbour, and eventually, and this is canon, not theory, George cheats on Mary. Mary almost did. George actually did. The marriage is dying. And then comes the moment that destroys her. In late young Sheldon, Georgie gets his girlfriend Mandy pregnant out of wedlock, and Pastor Jeff fires Mary from the church. The job she'd built her entire identity around. The community she'd given decades to. Gone. Because her family was an embarrassment. That right there is the breaking of Mary Cooper. She loses her faith community in the exact same way her son got her into trouble, through an unplanned pregnancy. The irony is almost cruel. And then George Sr. dies. The Big Bang Theory established this from day one. Sheldon's father died when he was 14. We always knew it was coming. Young Sheldon spent 7 seasons building toward it, and when it finally happened in the show's final episodes, it hit harder than anyone expected. Mary comes home from work. The ambulance is there. George is gone. Heart attack. No goodbyes. And here's what people miss. Mary was, at that exact moment, in the middle of a crisis with her faith. She'd been fired from the church. She'd nearly had an affair. Her husband had actually had one. Her son had just left for Germany. Her oldest had a baby with a woman 10 years older than him. Her whole world was already crumbling. And then the foundation, George, just disappears. She never gets to fix the marriage. She never gets to apologize. She never gets to hear him say he's sorry either. The book just closes. This is the moment. This is the exact moment the Mary Cooper of young Sheldon, the warm, slightly anxious, doting mother, starts becoming the Mary Cooper of the Big Bang Theory, the harder, sharper, more judgmental woman who uses scripture like a weapon. She doesn't stop loving her kids. She just stops being soft about it. Fast forward about 13 years. Sheldon is now Dr. Sheldon Cooper, theoretical physicist, living in Pasadena, California, what Mary lovingly calls Gomorrah. She visits him a lot. And every time Mary Cooper shows up on the Big Bang Theory, 2 things happen. 1, Sheldon, the most arrogant man alive, instantly turns into a 6-year-old. He listens to her. He obeys her. He lets her touch his food. Mary is the only authority in the universe that he respects without question. And 2, Mary spends the whole episode making Leonard, Howard, Raj, and Penny deeply uncomfortable. She tells Howard Jewish people don't go to heaven. She tries to baptize Leonard. She tells Penny she'll pray for her promiscuity, while admitting she herself was way wilder at that age. This is Mary at her most TV villain coded. But here's the thing. If you watch closely, she's still loving. She's still showing up. She still sings Soft Kitty. She's just been hollowed out by grief and bitterness, and the only language she has left is the language of her church. Sheldon famously describes her like this, quote, "A kind, loving, religiously fanatical, right-wing Texan with a slightly out-of-scale head and a mild Dr. Pepper addiction." And honestly, that's accurate. All of it. including the Dr. Pepper. She also, and this is one of the best Mary moments in the entire show, almost sleeps with Leonard's dad Alfred at Leonard and Penny's wedding. The wild child is still in there. She just keeps her in a Sunday dress. Okay, here's the meta detail that breaks fans' brains. In The Big Bang Theory, Mary is played by Laurie Metcalf. Yes, Jackie from Roseanne, an Oscar nominee, an acting legend. In Young Sheldon, Mary is played by Zoe Perry. Zoe Perry is Laurie Metcalf's actual, real-life daughter. A mother and daughter played the same character across 2 shows, spanning 40 years of fictional life. And honestly, go look at side-by-side photos. They have the same eyes, the same mannerisms, the same way of saying Shelley like it's both a prayer and a sigh. It's the single most quietly genius casting decision in modern sitcom history. And it works because Mary Cooper, more than any other Cooper, is a character defined by how she changes over time. You needed 2 performers, but you needed them to feel like the same soul. That's why Mary's arc lands the way it does. It's not just acting, it's genetics. So who is Mary Cooper really? She's not the cartoon Bible mum The Big Bang Theory sometimes uses her as. And she's not the perfect angel that Sheldon's voiceover in Young Sheldon makes her out to be. She is a teenager who got pregnant in a bar and rebuilt herself into a saint. A mother who fought the entire Texas school system for her weird genius son. A wife in a marriage that started broken and only ever half-healed. A widow who turned grief into judgment because that was the only tool she had left. A grandmother who still sings Soft Kitty. She's the most morally complicated Cooper. Not Sheldon, not George, not even Meemaw. Mary. She loved her family so hard, she lost herself in the process. And then spent the rest of her life trying to find pieces of her back. Sometimes through faith, sometimes through Dr. Pepper, always through her kids. That's the entire story of Mary Cooper. If this hit different, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because Mary's story is just one thread. Next, you need to know what happened to George Cooper Sr., the man Sheldon called a drunk for years, until young Sheldon revealed he was actually the best dad in that whole family. His story is even more heartbreaking than Mary's. Click the video on screen and let's keep going. Soft Kitty, Warm Kitty.